Hey guys, my name is Steve, but feel free to call me Visions, and today I'm going to rank all of Sekiro's bosses from being my least favorite to favorite. I'm excluding the mini bosses because to me they're really not bosses, but more like mini bosses. So we really only got a handful to dig through anyways. Just like in my Bloodborne ranking, there's a variety of different factors that come into play on why I like or dislike a certain boss. Could be the arena, could be the mechanics, could be the aesthetics of the boss, could be lore. So really it just comes down to being my opinion. Feel free to share yours in the comments as always. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Coming in dead last, I've got the undying headless guardian ape, or whatever you want to call it. As I already mentioned in my 2-minute review, it is mainly the pathetic level of recycling I have my problems with here. In my first playthrough I literally had to fight it mere minutes after defeating the guardian ape, and it was then that I legit, for the first and only time ever in playing a FromSoft game, I was tempted to just put it away honestly. I was that pissed, annoyed and disappointed all at the same time. Now granted, I wasn't too confident with Sekiro's combat system yet, and thus generally had a pretty hard time with the game, but still. The fact they made quite a RNG-ish gank fight out of it most certainly doesn't help either. The recycling and more importantly the timing of it, the arena and the fight itself make this truly hands down the worst boss in a game for me. Unsurprisingly, I've got the corrupted monk next on the list. While a lot of what I just said about the undying guardian ape is true for the corrupted monk as well, I honestly have to say that from now on I pretty much enjoyed all of the fights. The reason it finds itself so low on the list is mainly because it is the worst version of a recycled boss once again. I know, technically speaking, the true corrupted monk is the recycled one, but at the same time, she's kinda not. Honestly, there's not too much to the fight itself. It's pretty much an endurance fight if you're not cheesing it, since she takes such little posture damage, meaning we have to constantly deflect or evade, get in a hit or two and rinse and repeat the whole procedure. I really like the arena by the way for some reason, very calming in a way. Next I've got... Yeah, honestly a pretty straightforward, good first boss. I don't know what else to say about it really. I ain't got anything to complain, but also nothing to rave about. Pretty cool looking dude riding his majestic horse, very neat introduction, an okay fight. I really like the battlefieldish arena as well. It's just a solid jack of all trades, master of none kind of boss in a way to me. Then I've got most people's least favorite quote-unquote fight, I'd imagine, the folding screen monkeys. I definitely think this is one of FromSoft's best gimmicky fights to this date. I always was a sucker for puzzles in video games, and kinda seeing one in form of a boss fight is always very welcome in my book. Honestly, it took me quite a while to figure out the invisible one is following me around. I did hear the footsteps and stuff and actually turned around and tried to hit it fairly early into the fight, but apparently I missed it, and so I wandered around for an additional 15 minutes until I finally figured it out. It really was a nice, original change for once. Coming in at number 10 I've got Genichiro Ashina. Funnily enough, apart from the monkeys and another one, the only boss in the game I managed to beat first try. No idea how I managed to do this, especially considering I wasn't at all going with the flow of the combat system yet. I think he's the kind of boss that tests and forces you to adapt to how the game wants you to play, similar to Father Gascoigne in Bloodborne. Aggression is definitely key, and as long as you're somewhat decent at blocking and evading, he's actually one of the easier bosses in the game if you ask me. His third phase was kinda predictable honestly, and while cool, actually easier than the first two phases I feel. But nonetheless, a very solid fight. Next I've got the great Shinobi Owl. Now if I'd have to rank these fights objectively, both him and Genichiro would rank quite a bit higher, but as already mentioned in other videos, I really am not the biggest fan of humanoid bosses unfortunately. Even less so when you're battling a seemingly frail old man. I love how this fight puts almost everything you've learned up to this point to the test though, while at the same time kinda playing with you. This weird attack of his that makes it so you can't heal yourself really did catch me off guard more times than I'd like to admit, and this was definitely my personal get good boss that forced me to adapt to the game's mechanics. Well, since I'm not too keen on fighting old people, Lady Butterfly also didn't make it too far up my list. While objectively speaking, Owl is the better fight I think, I just preferred her nimble elegance over his bluntness in a way. She's also definitely a few notches below him in terms of difficulty, but still, I don't know, just more my type of fight I suppose. While she may seem quite a challenge for newcomers, in reality she really isn't all that hard, especially once you figure out she can be kinda stun-locked. I also quite enjoyed her arena and soundtrack. Once again, just a very solid overall fight, like pretty much all of them. Wow, would you look at that? Another recycled old man boss. Yeah, apart from these two factors, I don't really have anything to complain about. Well, I dislike the cryptic quest to even get there in the first place, honestly. And the arena, even though it makes sense narratively, is also once again recycled, but whatever. Doesn't really influence the fight itself. For me, this was pretty much the hardest boss in the game, but I think it was fair, and I think we all love a fair, hard boss. In a way, it feels as if we're battling ourselves even, as he too makes use of the firecrackers and the Mikiri counter, for example. Apart from another fight, I feel this is truly one where any mistake will get punished severely, and I love that. Then I've got Emma the Gentle Blade / Ishin Ashina. I'm gonna count them as a single boss because, let's be real, they pretty much are. Let's start with Emma. I really didn't want to fight her honestly because, you know, simping and stuff. No, but for real, she and Kuro were always good company in my opinion, so I obviously don't want to run a 24-inch katana through her neck, you know. Lore-wise, this fight is obviously pretty cool, as all she's trying to do is stop you from becoming a dick, and the fight itself was also pretty neat. She does live up to her name, as her fighting really does feel elegant yet deadly, similar to Lady Maria from Bloodborne. All in all, a short, good fight that you just have to feel bad winning for. Now Ishin, on the other hand, was definitely more of a challenge, and while there's barely anything to criticize about this fight, it's just that he gets outperformed by himself really. Breaking into the top 5, I've got the Demon of Hatred. I think I'm not alone when I say this feels like a Bloodborne boss thrown into Sekiro. Like, I personally don't mind that, but I've seen plenty of complaints about it, and I can see where they're coming from, since their mechanics most certainly differ. While quite a few people seem to struggle a lot against this fella, I once again have to say it wasn't all that hard for me honestly, but that might be the case because I realized fairly early on that the umbrella prosthetic tool would come in clutch once he starts jumping into the air. Fun fact, a good friend of mine whom I'd definitely consider to be quote-unquote better at these games took an insane amount of tries to finally beat him as well. He slew most of the serious, notoriously hard bosses in like 5 tries max or something, but the Demon of Hatred really seemed to be his kryptonite. I'm not gonna tell the exact number, else he's gonna kill me, but it was a lot though. Alright, 4th place goes to Genichiro, Way of Tomoe / Ishin the Sword Saint. Yeah, I think most people's both favorite and most difficult boss in the game, and you can't really argue with that. You know by now that I prefer fighting beasts and stuff instead of humans, but even I have to admit this fight is absolutely top notch in terms of quality. He really puts everything you've learned through the entirety of the game to the test, and any mistake will get punished severely. Well, I'm talking Ishin of course, as Genichiro is really nothing but a speed bump in this fight. Emma definitely proved to be more of a challenge than Genichiro, but therefore Fire Ishin is a lot more manageable than Sword Saint Ishin I feel. The arena, even though it is once again recycled, is a worthy location of a fight this epic, and this battle as a whole is generally just deserving of being called an incredible final boss. 3rd place goes to the Guardian Ape. The first time I fought this dude I wasn't too fond of him, not gonna lie, but he since grew a lot on me. Similarly to the Demon of Hatred, I feel he pretty much throws everything you've learned up to this point mechanic-wise out of the window, as it once again feels more like a Bloodborne boss honestly, especially in its first phase. I think it's so cool how it just runs around with its chopped off head in one and the katana in the other hand, and its second phase in general caught me so off guard. I also think it's just really disturbing and fucked up in a cool kind of way though. Definitely one of my favorites, obviously. Well, my top 2 picks will come as a surprise for many, I'd imagine. 2nd place goes to the True Corrupted Monk. After Ao, Father, my second most difficult boss, and I honestly was surprised to see a lot of people rank her towards the lower end of their lists in terms of difficulty. But once again, the beauty of the subjective boss rankings, I guess. Demon of Hatred took me like 4 to 5 tries, but she whooped my ass for 2 hours straight. Funny, isn't it? I think it is because of that reason that I grew to really like her, but her eerie aesthetics and the incredible arena sure add their flavor as well. Yeah, and that only leaves the Divine Dragon as my number 1 pick. I mean, since I constantly rave about how much I love the spectacular bosses, not too surprising actually. Yes, it is very easy unfortunately, and I would have definitely preferred it to be a little more challenging, but goddamn, that's how you present a boss in my opinion. I think I don't need to go into detail as to why this is eye candy at its highest level. The atmosphere in this fight might be FromSoft's peak moment so far. It is also pretty much the only fight in the game that features some truly outstanding music in my opinion. I'd like to give it some praise for its, at least for FromSoft standards, unique mechanics as well. Instead of just spamming swords attacks and blocks, we're met by more of a platform typical boss you might expect in a Spyro game or something. Overall, just a very welcome change, especially if delivered with such style. Just would have loved it to be a little more challenging. Anyways, that's it. Hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, I'd appreciate a like, and as mentioned, feel free to share your lists in the comments. Until next time.